Good morning, everyone. This is very fancy. It's nice to see all of you. My name is Chongzheng. You can call me Chong. I go by he, they. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Counseling Psychology, also coordinate the LGBTQ counseling emphasis in our department, which is very cool. It's a 3-course curriculum designed to train LGBTQ affirming clinicians. Jack here actually used to run this. My research is focused on LGBTQ health disparities and interventions to support them, especially those with multiple marginalized identities. So now I'm going, and I don't have any conflict of interest to disclose. So now I'm going to turn to our amazing panelists who come from different, very wide range of expertise, including youth activists, advocates, activists, and nonprofit organization leader, and clinical clinician. So now I'm just going to let panelists introduce themselves.
Can you hear me?
No.
Just use this. Good morning. I'm Janet Sims. I'm an LMFT. As Chong said, I used to coordinate the LGBTQ emphasis here, but I have to tell you, we have a celebrity in the front row because the founder of the emphasis is right there, Dr. Don St. Louis. This would not exist if it weren't for him. I did work here with the emphasis. I did a bunch of, we did several symposiums trying to bring better mental health training for LGBTQ youth and adults. Training our therapists here in the area seemed to be very successful. We always sold out within a week or so. But most of my career is in private practice, and I'll be talking today more from that realm of working with individual youth in the LGBTQ community.
I think mine is working. Yeah, just have to put the little thing on here. Okay, hi. My name is Valerie Grison-Alsop. I'm the founder and executive director of Give Us the Floor. We help LGBTQ youth in distress via online support group and supportive community online, very structured supportive community. I came to this world just out of passion and understanding that when young people are in trouble, it's way easier for them to share with young people that are going to knock on an adult's door. And being among people that relate to them, share the same challenges, that's really powerful.
Hi everyone, my name is Terrell. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a 4th-year student at Johns Hopkins University studying public health, and I'm so excited to be here today. I worked recently with the mental health nonprofit Active Minds and Showtime MTV Entertainment Studios to develop Ask, Acknowledge, Support, Keep in Touch. It's a multimedia initiative dedicated to equipping young people with the basic skills to help their friends and provide them basic emotional support. It was a really cool initiative. There's an interactive website and a YouTube experience, and we also partnered with celebrities and influencers in the Paramount Global Media Network in order to get the word out. So very excited to sit and be in community with all of you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Juan. Acosta. My pronouns are he, him. I started my advocacy work at the age of 13 out of my own need of survival. I didn't start it because I wanted to. I started because that's what I needed to do to survive. I started dealing with many difficult things at a young age, but since then I've been able to contribute to many spaces, including many national mental health committees. I spoke at the first ever Youth Mental Health Action Forum White House event, and I contributed to Channel Kindness, book released by Lady Gaga and her mother, Cynthia Germanata, alongside other Born This Way Foundation reporters. I drafted a historic LGBTQ plus proclamation for my hometown of Woodland, California, and have dedicated my work since graduating from San Francisco State University to the LGBTQ plus community and needs of young people. I currently serve on the board of the Steinberg Institute and serve as a program officer for Sierra Health Foundation. Thank you.
Amazing.
Is this better?
A little bit for the end of the...
Thank you.
The room, to the back of the room so they can hear. Do you have any conflict of interest you want to disclose?
Nope.
No. Okay. Yeah. All right. So when I was a youth, I also had mental health issues, and I had many other youth friends who were struggling with mental health challenges. So I want to turn to our youth activists first. What do you see are some really important mental health needs and challenges that LGBTQ youth have that can be addressed by digital mental health tools?
I love this question, and I can provide a little bit more context into my journey. So, like Juan, I also struggled with my mental health very early on, and I like to say that I had my first thought of suicide when I was 12 years old. And growing up, it's like one of those little, like, on the mic, like, on the street, like, you know those? Okay. So yeah, I was struggling with my mental health from a really young age, and for context, I grew up in a really rural hometown in Oregon. It's about 2,000 people, and we actually just got DoorDash, which is like so exciting. So that's like a technology I'm excited to see. But when I think about what it was like to grow up struggling with my mental health, and then also trying to navigate my gender identity and my sexual orientation, one of the biggest things that played a role in my life was geography-based barriers and the fact that it was so hard to access mental health care in my community. So the only resource that I had to turn to really was online. And so I remember I was very active on Reddit and other social media platforms in order to find and build community. And I think that's maybe another sort of like bright spot in the digital mental health movement, is that I think it can really foster these spaces of peer support and social connection, which I think is so important for young queer people who are growing up and who need people like them. I think it's really telling that, like queer people are some of the, only people that might not see other people like them on like a day-to-day basis. And so being able to build sort of like supportive online communities was really important to my recovery journey and my help seeking. And I think another thing about, I guess, like digital tools and sort of the needs of LGBTQ young people are that they are more discreet, just kind of by design, right? I remember that I was able to explore these topics related to my, queerness without having to go to my family or my friends who, at the time, I wasn't sure I, felt comfortable around or trusted or safe with. And so being able to have sort of a private space where I could be discreet was really important to me. And I think it's great now that so many of these tools are supportive of that with like quick escapes and things like that. And I think a final thing was that, as I was navigating all of my mental health challenges, cost was always on my mind. And I think for many young people, digital tools are perceived to be lower cost because they're, provided at scale. And so that was certainly something on my mind. And I recently was working with the National Academies on sort of a similar event to this. And it was also on the minds of those young people there, just thinking about like, how am I going to access mental health care that's free, reduced, or low cost, especially in the context of like queer people who might have less familial support in order to pursue those sorts of opportunities.
Yeah, well, Trey said it all, but similar to Trey, I also dealt with just navigating the digital world at a young age. And I come from a Mexican immigrant family. I came to this country at age 2. And talking about mental health itself was not something that we did at home. And so I started talking about it because I needed to. I had to explain to my school counselor how I was feeling. And that's how I even started getting familiar with the jargon that we use in the field, right? And for me, the digital world is what helped me feel seen. I grew up in a small rural town as well, and I didn't have much representation in my hometown. And it was online spaces that provided that representation that affirmed me for who I was. The message of even born this way at an early age was really critical to my development and to my own coping mechanisms, because I was able to connect with peers online through text lines that supported my wellness and allowed me to feel more open and safe when disclosing what I was feeling. And it was difficult at first to really put everything into words, but having a sense of community online was truly what saved my life, because I no longer felt alone. I used to go home often feeling alone, feeling like no one understood me. But being seen by someone, even online, had a tremendous impact in my life, and that's what many young people are still currently feeling. We've done many great things, there's a lot of progress, but we know that in this moment there's a lot more to do, especially today, in this day and age, and specifically for the trans community who continue to struggle and continue needing more from all of us. I grew up really just trying to understand and looking at our adults and saying, why are we allowing for people like me at that point to feel that way? So now as I get older, it is up to me to ask that question to myself, and it's up to all of us to contribute to making sure that the LGBTQ plus community is not pushed away, but rather that they're uplifted like we're uplifting the community today.
So well said and beautiful, and I can really relate to that loneliness and isolation being seen by others. So appreciate every one of you in this room creating digital spaces and tools to serve LGBTQ youth. And I appreciate Juan highlighting the unique struggles trans youth are experiencing today and this year. And there's nothing new. Yeah. So now I want to turn to Valerie. You, as the founder of Give Us the Floor, an NGO that provides online peer support for LGBTQ youth. In your experiences working with LGBTQ youth, what are some strategies that you have found effective in really giving them the floor? Really uplifting their voices and leadership because they already have tremendous knowledge and skills.
They do. And I want to say that it was so helpful to hear both of your story, and Give Us the Floor also came because we heard some young people said. So I started Give Us the Floor in the Bay Area, and it was first an in-person gathering and support system. And then what we realized very quickly is, one, the young people don't have the time to go in the place and meet together. Two, you have all the transportation limitation. A lot of young people live in suburban, rural, and cannot access support. And the third thing that I didn't see coming at all is that they actually don't want to share their secret question with their close community because they're afraid that there might be some leak in their community and they may not be ready to share their identity or their sexual orientation or just their questioning. So when we understood that, it was clear, listening to young people, it was clear that we had to go online and do an anonymous service for them, and that they feel so much more comfortable sharing what they're going through, their questioning, through being anonymous with people that are only there to support them, but are absolutely with no risk of their secret being shared in their community. And so that's why I think they feel safe. And so Give Us the Floor is really by you, for you, because since the beginning we listen to them. We have a youth advisory board. We train young people to be facilitators, to facilitate the community. They are backed by clinical mental health people, which means when some of our young people are in crisis, it's the adult with clinical experience that step in and try to make sure as much as possible that the young people in crisis are in danger or with inappropriate behavior within the program. They deal with it. And so having this youth facilitator, they're the leader of the community. They're really the one. There's no adult talking with the young people of the community. And it's incredibly powerful for them because they feel that's their place, that's their own place. And so we launched the online program 8 years ago, and I'm so proud to say that thanks to the young people who really pay attention to their community and want it to be a safe community, every time there's something odd or something that somebody doesn't behave the way they should be at. They report it. There's a very easy reporting feature. And they just want their community online with their peer that help them. They want it to be safe, and they do everything that they could to make it safe. So in 8 years, we've served over 15,000 young people, and we haven't had any major, everybody is afraid of predators, of adults coming within the community and grooming. Young people can detect an adult or a predator within 2 sentences, maybe half a sentence, and they report it right away, and then we're very quick to remove the person from the community. So that's their place. We're just here to help, I would say.
Wow. Thank you for all that you do to create that powerful space for youth to find safety and connections with each other, and healing. And speaking of healing, I want to turn to Janet, the longtime clinician who has worked with LGBTQ youth for many, many years. And I'm curious, in your clinical experience, how do you balance the role as the expert in the room, you are the clinician guiding the therapeutic process, but also at the same time trusting LGBTQ youth, especially trans youth, in making decisions that are affirming and important for them?
I always say 80% of my practice. When I started my private practice, I thought, I really want to serve the LGBTQ community. And I thought, well, that will be hard to build, but there just weren't that many people in the South Bay doing it when I started, honestly. And so it grew and it grew. And then I ended up working a lot. Probably 80% of that 80% was about gender expansiveness. And I think one of the first things, I'm not sure I made this up or if somebody else told me, but my job was never to talk somebody into anything or out of anything. It was to help them talk about it. And if you're going into it with that, it sort of takes a lot of pressure off the room. And a lot of my kids that were working with gender, some were in a real questioning phase. And that was fine. It was a safe place to do it. That's what psychotherapy is about. They might have been trying to talk to a friend or a peer. I think friends and peers every year have gotten smarter. And your generation is just a lot more kind in a lot of ways than just, say, some of us with a lot of gray hair about these issues. And they could be more supportive, but it became hard. And I think with gender, yes, it can be about pronouns, it can be about names, and it can be about medical care. And medical care is a big deal. And I'm just going to name it in the room right now. Our young gender-expansive community is under an assault I cannot even believe. I was telling, my brother is here today, hi Neil. But I just returned from a big conference called US PATH in New Mexico. US PATH is I'll explain this because you should know this, is the US part of WPATH. WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, yeah, a lot of these are my students, they're raising their hands. That's the people that come together, just an incredible group of minds that create something called the standards of care that's put into the medical insurance system in the United States and countries literally all over the world for people to get coverage for good quality, affirming mental and medical care. And that is really what's under assault right now. And so at that conference, I've never been through so much security in my life. It was way out, they purposely chose it way out of town. And it was actually really frightening. It was really frightening, and they wouldn't say why. Our presenters from Canada wouldn't come. Presenters from other places from out of the country would not cross our border. So that's where we're at with that. So these kids especially are under something. As a young lesbian in my 20s, I thought it was scary. This is nothing compared to what's going on right now. So I think as a clinician, that is really my, what I'm hoping right now is how we keep making sure there's always, in whatever the digital medium is, which I think this is just an amazing thing, what you two are describing and your work. I've only really known about Trevor Project before until I started reading about your work. but that we're always holding that safety. Not every kid needs to go to a mental health professional if they're questioning their sexuality or their gender. That's just not true. That's just not true. The whole letter thing, if somebody wants to talk to me on the side about that, we can talk about that. But they do need, the ones that are most vulnerable, we have to always build in what you guys are talking about, somebody that's safe. And I think some of us worry about more national things because you won't know the hospital that's safe to send a trans kid. I know where those are right here. I can tell you within, the 30, 40, 100-mile radius here. I don't know what they are in Wyoming. Kind of things. So those are some of my concerns that I go back to. And I think it just gets elevated every day right now as I watch this sacrifice of this community, set that community on fire, I guess, so we can put our attention elsewhere. I don't know why they're doing it. I just don't even want to go down there. But that's, to me, I think, the key thing for mental health professionals that work in this LGBTQ area right now that we're wrestling with, because they're having to make up new ways to deal with this every day.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that for all of us to be aware of, Janet. And now I want to turn back to Juan and Trace again, acknowledging all the struggles and strains that, from the LGBTQ youth communities. I'm curious, to what extent are LGBTQ youth right now turning to digital mental health as a tool, as a resource to help themselves, find communities, and what are some of the tools that they are using? I know you already mentioned some of the tools, but if you have more you want to share, yeah.
You can
go. This is a great question. I think from the conversations that I've had with my peers, there are many queer young people who are going online and looking exactly for the care that's being taken away from their communities, from their schools, and from so many other places that I think used to bring so much safety and security. I guess let me bring it up like so close. I think one of the most tremendous losses we've had is the removal of the LGBTQ specialization option on the 90-day suicide crisis lifeline. We knew it worked because calls increased so dramatically, texts increased so dramatically, and so I think it's so deeply unfortunate that is no longer there. But I do think it means that queer people are looking for other places in order to kind of get the care that they're looking for. I guess in my professional work, so I've worked with Ask, and that's been a really incredible experience. And to date, I think we've launched it maybe about a year and a half ago, and we've reached more than 50,000 impressions on our YouTube experience, and then many more on our interactive website as well. And what I think makes so many young people turn to this resource over maybe some of the others that are just kind of like out and about is that we were really intentional in the design and development of the tool to embed LGBTQ experiences and BIPOC experiences into the user experience and the user interface. I think that has been wildly successful, and so we have throughout the video there's just a little progress flag just posted on the thing, and I think that's been so affirming and just a small reminder that yes, people making these tools have you in mind, and that is so deeply important. But another thing that really helped us get this tool out was our partnerships, and so I talked a little bit about the fact that we met with celebrities and influencers, but we really targeted LGBTQ leaders in the field. So I wrote them down because they're all just so cool, and I'm still so amazed that they agreed to kind of participate in the project. But we were able to get Dylan Mulvaney to go on there. She's a wonderful transgender activist. A twink and a redhead, which might be more of my Gen Z, but they do good comedy humor skits on TikTok, and they were an amazing partner. There's also someone on TikTok named Benton McClinton or something. He's really funny. And then we were also able to reach out to some of the queens on RuPaul's Drag Race. So we were able to get Adore Delano, Kylie Sonique Love, and Carrie Colby to talk about how Ask has showed up in their lives and how it's been so important. And I think for young people seeing, their bigger brother or bigger sister, bigger sibling, people out in these positions is really important, but then also just older queer people too, showing that we're still here. We've made it this far, and that amidst all of these struggles, like there is still hope, has been really, really important.
Yeah, everything, again, Trace said, but for me, I managed a grant recently that was a youth suicide prevention program, and it was with local level prevention activities with community-based organizations in the state of California. And 33 CBOs were funded to do this work. And so they had in-person programming for people who felt safe, and this was specifically for underserved communities, including the LGBTQ plus community. And there was a media component as well, which was to activate the Never a Bother campaign, a state campaign funded by the California Department of Public Health. That gave young people the tools to lead the campaign. They became the messengers of the campaign. So this wasn't just an icon and a catchy slogan, but it was young people sharing their stories for the first time. And a lot of the young people were members of the LGBTQ plus community. And to us, it showed that young people are willing to lead if given the opportunity. I think young people are often questioned or told that they need something, when the young people should be the ones telling others how they feel and what they need. The campaign amassed millions of impressions, and over 115 young people were reached through the program with in-person interactions. So it was a component of both. But what we see in the digital world is that, again, going back to young people feeling safe and represented, the representation does a lot, especially right now. I don't know if you all noticed this Pride Month, but a bunch of the companies who typically invest during Pride Month did not this year. And I think it says a lot of the time that we're in. And I think the funding is necessary to continue uplifting the community, and that we need responsible tech. When we create apps, when we create anything, we need the representation of the LGBTQ plus community. If that app is meant to serve the LGBTQ plus community, we don't need any more products. We have a lot. We need intentional approaches to serve the LGBTQ plus community, and especially, as mentioned, with gender-expansive youth and the trans community currently, a lot of the places that they go to aren't online, including social media, right? People find representation, they find peers that they may be able to connect with online. I've met a lot of people through social media that I have never talked to in person in my life, and it's very unique because it's the age that we live in, but it does a lot for a young person who may feel like they have no one to talk to at home.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue for my next question, because you are starting to talk about some of the risks and concerns that digital mental health platforms or tools might have, right? Obviously, they have huge benefits that you all acknowledged earlier already, but some of the risks may include youth could overuse screens and lose connections to in-person friends and families. They could be exposed to harmful contents, biased contents, not seeing themselves being represented, or their privacy could be violated, right, if they are still in a closet, and if it's risky and dangerous for them to be out. So this is really a question to all of you. Anyone can chime in. How do we really balance the benefits and risks of the digital mental health tools, from all your areas of expertise, but really in the design, implementation, or any aspect of it,
Yeah, I'm happy to start on that one. I know the angle we took at Give Us the Floor since the beginning was really the safety. And it's been so the app, we design an app, and everything, our first goal is safety. So 97% of the participants see Give Us the Floor as a safe place, and more than 87% feel comfortable sharing what they're going through. And it's really because it's a structured environment. That's where we decided to go. It's like you have to sign up. We don't hesitate to remove people who don't follow the guidelines of the community. We have a moderator. We have an easy reporting feature. So spending too much time on the screen, I personally think that it depends what you do on the screen. I mean, I'm not sure you can say there's too much time on the screen if what you do on the screen is meaningful. I want to say also that we always encourage young people to seek for in-person support if they can. Like, for example, when they're in crisis, we always like, do you have a safety plan? Do you have a person that you can go talk to when you really don't feel good? So we personally believe that to young people to flourish or feel better, it's a combination of the online support that is always available, but having an anchor and somebody in their real life that they can count on is a big thing.
You're making me realize too, I think so often, especially during the pandemic, right? It's not like I was the only person that all of a sudden had to roll their business online overnight. Everybody in this room did that to some degree. And a lot of the depression I would hear about was, I think, doom scrolling, right? Doom scrolling, or just getting lost on their social media site of choice, and sort of, getting targeted now if they're watching one very depressing video, moral show. It's how to kind of move them from things that are helping their mental health, like you guys are describing, and yours is a place of safety to go and interact and maybe talk about issues. But I think as a mental health provider, that's not always obvious about how to make those moves. Because I think the younger providers are going to have more success. Honestly, I'll be blunt. I think that if it's more of the same generation. But how to make that move? How to make that enticing, rather than I'm depressed, I will just go ahead and feed that depression. That's my question. Maybe that's more for you too. Because how do you deal with that? Yeah. I hate to put all the pressure of the entire generation on you two, and I just did. But still, they're so smart.
Yeah. Well, let's see if you think the same after I answer. Thank you. I mean, it's very difficult, right? It's a fine balance there. You both mentioned great things. I think there are pros and cons, right? The pro is the representation that we're talking about. But when I spoke earlier about responsible tech, is also being responsible, even with setting reminders in whatever digital space that you're in, whether it be a self-help app or whatever application it may be, of people to take a break or to take a minute to, go take a breath, to take a walk. That's responsible tech. Not tech that just wants to monetize and have people doom scroll as we know it. And I do think technology oftentimes doesn't look for the negative effects that it could have, right? Technology, any companies, rightfully so, a business, right? And that's how they model their business. They want to make money. But at what expense are people making money, And for young people in particular, I've gotten death threats through my advocacy, through my activism. I post online often. I do content creation. And I can handle it because I am supported by my family, by my friends, and I have my coping mechanisms. I have my routine that supports me. But I oftentimes think when that stuff happens to me, if this were to happen to another young person who may not have all the support systems and the knowledge that I have to support myself now, that could really have a detrimental and negative effect on a person's life forever. And so responsible tech or technology needs to set up barriers, boundaries, so that young people are protected. I think we can have the ideal world, right, where everyone knows to take a 30-minute break or just go on their phone for an hour, but we know that's not realistic in the age of the digital world. So what can we do to contribute to making sure that we set up these barriers and protectors so that young people and everyone in general have a sense of how to protect their own mental health and wellness?
Yeah, can I jump in? Yeah, I want to say that in Give Us the Floor, but because we listened again to our participant, we have conversation prompts that popped in the chat or in the channels, and they're a lot about self-care, how to develop coping mechanism, take a breath, go take a walk when you have an anxiety crisis, what to do, go in the nature, leave your phone off. So there's a lot of advice, coping skills that have been that are proposed and developed by youth. I want to say Kat is there, and she has a youth creator team, and everything, all the prompts around conversation are developed by young people, as well as everything on social media, and we really insist on trying to help them to get to a life balance where they don't spend all their day on Give Us the Floor. Because personally for us, we don't make more money if they spend more time on our app. We're free for them, and we're thanks to a lot of supporters. Thank you so much to Sherry, who is a big supporter. And Give Us the Floor wouldn't be here without Sherry, that's for sure. It's a big thing, and we actually, when they leave the app, say, I don't think I need that support anymore. There's nothing that makes us happier than seeing young people not needing an online support tool anymore.
Yeah. So I have one final question for all of you, and then we are going to open the floor to the audience for questions. So if you have some questions, you maybe let them start brewing more and more. So I'm curious for all of you, what is one important message about digital mental health for LGBTQ youth? If there's one message you want to tell everyone in this room, what would your message be?
Me, that would be trust young people.
Trust young people.
I think to build on that, work with young people too. I think there's this misconception that queer young people aren't wanting stricter rules and regulations around social media use. I'm personally tired of hearing that narrative, and I'm tired of the onus being on young people when we're not talking enough about the predatory and addictive practices and algorithms that big tech companies are using to get young people to steal their attention, to steal their energy. And so I think we need to have a mindset shift around that and to work with young people and advancing like common sense social media protections.
I think for me, I would just say invest. And I don't just mean monetary investment, I mean in time and our intention to continue supporting the LGBTQ plus community in this current time, where many people stepped away and have abandoned the community completely. Double down on your commitment to support the LGBTQ plus community, on your commitment to speak up and utilize whatever avenue in your life that you can to support the community. Our young people need us now more than ever, especially our trans and gender expansive youth. And it is up to us to make sure that we uplift everyone and that we support and lean on one another to continue doing the work that we do and doing so intentionally.
I am just entranced by that. Because I think it is about trusting that next generation will know how to take care of themselves. I really do. But I will say as a therapist, it's always safety first. It's always safety first for me. So just always making sure that there is a plan in place anytime you suspect. And I'd much rather make somebody angry at me for, hospitalizing them if I have to, rather than have them not be there on Monday morning. So setting up those things, I know a lot of schools are doing much better these days with that kind of thing. There's mental health clubs in schools now, unheard of at Clovis High School where my brother and I went. Just keep supporting that. So yeah, thank you so much. I feel very encouraged. Yeah, and that's not easy for me in this realm. Yeah.
Now we are opening to questions from the floor. I invite questions related to our panelists' expertise and what they have shared so far. Yes. Is there a mic? Or...
Where was it? Hi. So I had a question. I also work with California, and one of the things that we noticed is that for some of the community organizations, they've really struggled to get folks to even come to events anymore. And that's like youth-oriented events, senior-oriented events. But if you all have any ideas of Yeah, just a lot of my understanding is a lot of community-based organizations are struggling with people wanting to come into the door because they're just really afraid, as they should be. But these organizations still need to demonstrate that they're like connecting with patients to like secure their funding. So I don't know if you all have any ideas around how to be creative to really make sure that youth and other folks can still get the resources they need.
I can probably jump in here. I think something that we've seen prior to this is moving on to online spaces. We know Zoom isn't ideal because you don't get that same in-person connection, but it does fill that gap where they're still connecting with their community. Another idea is if it's working specifically with young people, going to their school campus since they're already there and trying to meet them where they're at, having the staff go to where the young people are at, where the community is at, rather than asking them to go to the organization during this time. I think those are two approaches that you could take.
Can I say something about that? There's a group over here called Q Corner, right? This is one of the great gifts of Santa Clara County, and they'd be good resources for you to talk to about because they've been trying to connect with youth, anywhere. They are everywhere. So just, I would, if you don't know them, go meet them. They're wonderful people. Yeah.
Thank you, man. I really enjoyed that. My name is John and I'm from Chongzheng. I think we're living in a time where there's increasing acknowledgement of some of the downsides of social media in particular. And if you look at what's happening in Australia and the UK right now, there are legislative efforts to limit access to social media for young people. And there are similar efforts at work in the US as well. And I think it is certainly possible that we could soon find ourselves in a situation where, in the name of child safety and protection, we are limiting access to digital services, which for LGBTQI plus minors, younger than 18, provide an extraordinary avenue or access to support. It feels like one of the things which is missing to me is some sort of quantitative assessment of what are some of the negative effects for young people at large and what are potentially some of the positive effects, so that we're able to have a reasonable conversation around, yes, there are these potential harms, but they are outweighed by the benefits. And at the moment, it's all just intuition and anecdotal on the part of I think, the people involved in this conversation. And I'm just worried that if we don't have strong claims to make for the benefits of access, then we are going to find ourselves in a world where there is no access for these young people. And I wonder, what can all of us do to make a stronger case, if you think that that's necessary, to preserve access for LGBTQI plus youth?
I just want to say thank you for asking that. It's just a valid question, and I know that. So I wouldn't call Give Us the Floor social media because it's more an app for mental health, but at the same time, we can have the same bucket of all that. And one of the things we have seen happening in the past 3 years, and that's really something it's legitimate, is not being able to target young people at all. And for us, it makes, and the Trevor Project the same, and any other online guidance, it makes our job at reaching out to young people who need support very hard. And so we would wish that there was a balance. I know the Trevor Project has worked a lot in advocacy and trying to get our politicians to understand that there's different level of people and different things. It's a hard one because you are also non-profit that are against queer and trans people, for example. So you don't want them to target the same population that we're trying to target. So it's a very hard issue to solve. What really makes me really angry is at the end, the people that make the more money from that are Meta, mostly, because then we have to spend way more ads to target super wide, so we show that a small percentage of the people who need our support need it, and at the end, they're the one. But it's a hard would love to have experts going in that subject and try to find an answer. It's a very hard one to tackle.
And just to add, everything you said is true. I think there's also a trust element to this, where you're asking LGBTQ plus young people and communities oftentimes that are underserved and have been targeted by systems to engage in a systems level approach, which is the statistics that we do need, right? The research. I think we need more investment in research, and I think you need to build trust and protect as much of the information of the community as possible, because we know some of these research has been used negatively to impact the community. So it's making sure that we're being protective of the community, and I know Trevor Project, Born This Way Foundation recently released a research on the LGBTQ plus community in digital space, and I'm sure Dr. Claudia will speak about it later. But there is research out there. It's making sure that the people making the decisions up at the top listen, right?
Yeah, I just want to build off that. Yeah, I think we do need more research, and one of the goals from the grants that Greg mentioned earlier, we are trying to look at the effectiveness of digital mental health app and peer counseling in supporting LGBTQ youth mental health. And there are many amazing researchers in this room who are all doing other really great research projects to build on all these findings to really highlight the benefits. And it is a hard time because we are experiencing actually research funding cuts, so we need more support from industry and other allies as well. Yeah, but thank you for the question. Please. Yes.
Hi, my name is Cesar. I'm from Pittsburgh. And I actually love the previous question. If I may add that I think largely the answer to this focus on all these risk reduction approach that we have to social media is because it's the general approach in health research, and that's unfortunately very sad. Even the funding incentives are used to be and still are very focused on that risk reduction, and there's really no incentive or very few to focus on protective factors for health or mental health in this case. So if there are, and we do have, but that's not, we do have some research focus on those protective factors in marginalized communities, but it's very much ignored because of that funding structure that we have. I hope that changes. My question for the panel, and thank you all for the transparency in sharing your experiences. I find that super valuable. There is a point, or there can be a point in every queer youth interactions with technology in which a next step might be needed, and actually going to professional support. And even when that happens, there's only a handful of states in this country where teens can access care without, for example, parental consent, which can be a huge barrier for queer youth because maybe they're not ready or willing to disclose their sexual identity or gender questioning identity in order to potentially seek and find that care. So involving caregivers or parents at some point is actually a challenge, I think, as well, if that scenario comes up. I wonder if you guys have any thoughts or experience on how that can be addressed, because I see it as a big challenge for a next step in care.
That's a very hard one, indeed. It's like we have, so when young people, but maybe with Tommy for the Trevor Project, maybe because they're the hotline and they're even dealing with more people in crisis than we do. But sometimes we have young people that we're not the solution for. They need more clinical help, and they even become negative on the platform because they're just talking about dark thoughts all the time. And it's really hard to, we try, so our community care specialists ask where they live, try to find a place where they could go and feel safe, to get another level of clinical care. But indeed, it's very hard to find some places that are welcoming and free, because most of these young people just didn't come out to their parents or cannot talk to their parents or guardians about what they're going through. So it's always the most, those are the hardest situation, and kids, and sometimes I have to say we don't really know how to help them. We try to give them as much as possible as local resources, but it's there's not many resources available, I would say, except in certain states, but you're totally right. And the young people that tend to come on Give Us the Floor don't have, or in states where being queer and trans is the hardest too.
Anything you would like to add, Janet?
I think I would add to that is, that is part of the crisis, right? That is the part of the crisis right now. And I think some of the talking I'm in several consultation groups, and I think a lot of the talk right now is about how to support that child while they are in that situation. To be honest, keep them alive until they can take care of themselves. We've been doing that forever on different issues, right? And you see it a lot. I think a lot of you here have been students here at Santa Clara and been through intern programs. And when you get sent out to agencies, and probably over half of you became high school counselors overnight, right? And junior high counselors. And kids sing like birds to you. And you're going, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with that, right? And I think it is true. Those are the kids we worry about, that they're going to fall through the ability to, they don't have enough reserves, right? They don't have those reserves. So a lot of times it's wander into the queer center if they can, wander into the school counselor if they can, and wander into the school mental health club if they have one. And it's things like that, because I wish I had a better answer for you. Because to go to a therapist can be expensive. The dirty little secret here in Santa Clara Valley is we all carry as many tech families or individuals as we can, because they have excellent health insurance and mental health coverage, and that enables us to have numerous slides. That's how it functions here, because you can't live here if you're living just on slides. Sliding scale. So that's so you're doing this, but with youth, it's getting the parent support and permission. You can fudge around with that a little bit, but you're hitting the nail right on the head right now. And I think there's been in our news kind of an upswelling that this is a mental health condition to be LGBT, certainly T. Right, that's obviously mentally unhealthy. Right, it's everywhere. We're hearing it everywhere right now, and I think families who might be on the cusp of not wanting to deal with it, that's just been easy just to get socialized back into that, like it was when I was young. Right, so I don't have a magic wand to answer it. I wish I do. With each kid, it's going to be hopefully a special route into, like I say, down to the LGBT Center in downtown San Jose, to Q Corner, wherever, and if you're interested in local resources, I know there are several really great organizations that are tabling here. They might have some resources, so.
Yeah, if I can add also one of the worst, hardest young people also is that when they come out to their family and they actually get kicked out of their home. And so you have a lot of young queer and trans people in the streets. And we have, sometimes we have to do mandatory report. We have reached out to sheriffs in some counties I'm not going to say what state, but and they don't care. They say, no, they're fine. They're on their own, but they're fine. They don't worry. We don't have to do anything. And then you hit a wall. It's like, what else can you do? It's like you're trying to help the youth. So you think, do you have an adult that you can go to? Do you have some friends? Is there a shelter? But that's,
Thank you.
access to care is very hard.
I wonder if Trace and Juan, you want to add to anything for young LGBTQ folks who are struggling with their mental health, and they might not be out to their family yet. They don't have the financial resources. Any thoughts or suggestions there?
Thank you. I think that is the most difficult part of being a LGBTQ plus community member, right? Is not knowing how to speak to your parents if you're not out yet, and having that support to seek help. What helped me was going to my school counselor, right? But what I see often is also in youth mental health programming, sometimes doing trainings for youth to support each other. Peer-to-peer training is really helpful. There are instances, right, where you're going to have to call the crisis line. Ideally, not deal with the police, or you try to steer away from that, because that can also be traumatizing. But sometimes that is the course that people take, because it is such a critical situation when youth are in crisis. I think a lot of it is doing what we can to also train our parents, right, to be more inclusive and supportive. We know that it's very difficult to do, especially when you're dealing with different cultures. But as much as we can, having spaces, representation, and having other youth train in peer-to-peer, that is something that people use as a resource as well, to make sure that they're supporting their peers in whatever way that they can prior to them reaching that crisis, and focusing on prevention. Suicide prevention is really important, and we oftentimes are responding to crises often, and I feel like we should be investing a bit more in the prevention side as well.
I agree. The only thing I would add, I had worked on a teen-to-teen mental health crisis hotline throughout high school, and a conversation that I had often with young queer people was, how do I come out to my family? And I'm really grateful that I received training to help them think about, do scenario planning and think about all the ways that this situation could go. Do you want to make a script to actually bring it up to your family or your friends? So I completely agree on the peer support component, and I think we don't give as much credit to young people who can kind of help with a lot of these initial thoughts and concerns, and just kind of provide that layer of support that I think is left out so much in this process.
Thank you so much. I really want to appreciate our panelists for sharing their lived experiences and their expertise with all of us. I think it's also important to note that despite all the challenges that we face, we are here together today, and we are trying to figure out solutions. We are doing our best in every way we can to support LGBTQ youth mental health, and thank you all for being here. And that's such. Please join me in